Hello, everybody. Welcome to Betting Insights, your sport betting podcast. I am your host, Timothy. I usually do this with my co host, Sergio, but he is off today. Now, on this show, we discuss five different club competitions across Europe: Serie A, Bundesliga, Eredivisie, Premier League, and La Liga. Now, we usually record on Thursday or Friday to record the weekend matchup, discuss those, and give you our bets and predictions for those games. Now we have some midweek matchups, not in every one of those leagues, but we got some interesting games, so let's get to it. Now, like I always tell everybody, bet responsibly, never bet more money than you can afford to lose. All right, let's start with the Eredivisie. Three matches. Those were matches who were postponed a couple of weeks ago. First game on the schedule, PSV versus Go Ahead Eagles. PSV wins at 1.19, Go Ahead Eagles wins at 16. Line for total goals set at 3.5. Now, PSV, obviously the better team. They're playing at home. Slight concern is their third match in less than a week. They played against Arsenal in the Champions League, played at the weekend and at Almere City. Now they come back home and host Go Ahead Eagles. But they're the better team. They're also in good form aside from the loss against Arsenal, so they should win this game. Go Ahead Eagles not in too bad of a form. They haven't lost in 4 games. Now, PSV, aside from the loss against Arsenal, they have kept a clean sheet in 3 of the last 4 games. Those were all 3 games in the Eredivisie. So it's 3 straight in the Eredivisie. I would expect them to concede a goal in this game. So my pick for this game is both teams to score at 1.99, almost 2 to 1. So good value, good bet for this game. Hammer that one. Next game, Twente hosting Vitesse. Twente wins at 1.42. Vitesse wins at 8. Line for the total goals also set at 3.5. Now, Vitesse, both teams coming off a loss at the weekend. Vitesse, losers of 4 straight, haven't scored in 3 games. Twente coming off a bad loss against RKC. They come back home, they would want to recorrect things. So expect Twente to come out with a win in this game. I don't have any confidence in Vitesse. They're just disastrous at the moment. I don't expect them to get anything out of this game. What I do like for this game is again both teams to score at 1.78. So there's some good value there. Like I said, Vitesse hasn't scored in 3 games straight. So I'd like them to score a goal in this game. Twente, I obviously considered they would score in this game, given that I expect them to win. So go for both teams to score in this game. That's a good bet for this game. Otherwise, I would stay away. Next up, Asset hosting Heracles. Asset wins at 1.29. Heracles wins at 11.5. Line for the total goals, again, 3.5. Now, Asset, obviously the better team. They come home. They want to win this game. They're coming off a bad loss in the European competition. So, they also obviously recorrected things at the weekend, winning at Zwolle. Now they come back home. They would want to make it 2 wins in a row. And actually, the loss in the European competition was their only loss of. There was their sorry guys. That was their only loss of the year. Heracles haven't won in 2 games now, obviously. So I think an Asset should come away with the victory. But Asset also has kept a clean sheet in 3 straight games in the Eredivisie. So I also like both teams to score in this game. So I got all my picks. Then that was the last game in the Eredivisie. 3 games. I like all of those 3 games. My best bet for those games, both teams to score. So that's what I like. That wraps up the Eredivisie. Let's get to the Serie A. First game, Serie A, Juventus hosting Lecce. Lecce surprisingly sitting third in the Serie A, haven't lost yet. Juventus, they lost their first game of the season against Sassuolo. They got punished for their mistakes at the back. Now they come back home. They would want to recorrect things, get a win against Lecce. I don't really have a bet for this game, so I'm staying away from this game, but I expect Juventus to win at 1.48, not good value for me. So I'm staying away from this game, but I expect Juventus to come away with a win. Next game, Hellas Verona hosting Atalanta. Hellas Verona started the season with 2 wins. Now the form has dipped since then. Atalanta kind of inconsistent at the moment. They win, they lose, they win, they lose. They're coming off a good win against Cagliari. Cagliari didn't manage to register a shot on target, but I think that has more to do with the offensive woes of Cagliari. I expect Hellas Verona to score a goal in this game, given that they haven't scored in 2 games. Atalanta not very strong at the back, so I expect Atalanta to come away with a win. A win for Atalanta is set at 1.85. Both teams to score is set at 1.83, so you can go either way in this game. I don't have them as a best bet, but you can pick either one, Atalanta to win or both teams to score. There's some good value there. Next game, Empoli hosting Salernitana. Both teams disastrous at the moment. Empoli haven't won yet. Actually, they've lost all of their games. Salernitana, at least they drew 3 of the 5 games. But both teams awful at the moment. They'll be fighting for relegation. If Empoli were to get any hopes of surviving, this is a game they have to win. So I don't have it as a best bet, but go for Empoli to win this game. They should win. They're at home. That favors them. And if they have any survival hopes, they would have to win this game. Next game, Cagliari hosting AC Milan. Cagliari wins at 5.5. AC Milan wins at 1.66. Line for total goals set at 2.5. Like I said earlier, Cagliari not in great form. They failed to register a single shot on target against Atalanta. AC Milan, they shook their embarrassing loss against Inter off with a 1-0 win against Hellas Verona. I expect that trend to continue here. Like I said, I don't have any confidence Cagliari. I really like AC Milan to win this game. It's not great value at 1.66, but it's good value. So I would go for AC Milan to win this game as one of my best bets for the midweek. Next up, Lazio hosting Torino. Lazio only won 1 game since the start of the season. Torino only lost 1 game. But given the fact that Lazio plays at home, I like Lazio in this spot. I would expect them to get a win. I don't really have that much confidence in them, but Torino's not a great team. They lost in the first games against AC Milan. After that, they played some mediocre opponents, which I have even less confidence in. So now they go on the road at Lazio. I expect Lazio to come away with a win. So I don't have this as one of my best bets, but if I were to do something in this game, I would go with a Lazio win. Next up, Napoli hosting Udinese. Napoli wins at 1.4. Udinese wins at 8.5. Line for the total goal set at 2.5. Now, obviously, this is a Napoli win. I'm staying away from this game because there's not a lot of value in Napoli winning. There's also not great value in the line of the total goals going over 2.5, given the fact that Udinese really has trouble scoring. They really have trouble finding the net. So I would expect nothing less than a Napoli win. They haven't won in 3 games. They did win in the Champions League game against Braga. Now they come home. They would want to recorrect things. They obviously coming off a disappointing draw against Bologna. So I would expect Napoli to come away with a win. But like I said, not great value. So I'm staying away from this game. Next up, Inter hosting Sassuolo. Inter wins at 1.34. Sassuolo wins at 8.5. Line for total goals set at 3.5. Now, Inter, the only team left in the Serie A yet to have dropped points. I expect that trend to continue here. They're playing at home. They should have no trouble putting Sassuolo aside. So go for an Inter win, but also not great value at 1.34. So I'm staying away from this game. The line for the total goals is set at 3.5. Also don't have great confidence it goes over the 3.5. So if I were to do something, I would look at betting the under 3.5. Inter good defense, so Sassuolo shouldn't score too much in this game. The 4 goals they scored against Juventus had more to do with the mistakes Juventus made at the back. So go for the under 3.5 if you were to do something. But me personally, I'm staying away from this game. Don't like bets in this game. Next up, Monza hosting Bologna. Monza wins at 2.48. Bologna wins at 2.95. Line for the total goals set at 2.5. Now, Bologna only one loss, but also only one win. Monza has not started the season great, but I think they were very unfortunate to not win the last home game against Lecce. Also took away some points against Lazio, where they looked like the better team at spots. So Monza also a sneaky good home team if you look at the record last season. So I would go for a Monza. I really like them. I want to take this as one of my best bets, but kind of tricky. But I would go for a Monza win in this game. I really like Monza. Next up, Frosinone hosting Fiorentina. Frosinone wins at 3.75. Fiorentina wins at 1.96. Line for the total goal set at 2.5. Now, both teams kind of a solid start to the season. On paper, you would expect Fiorentina to come away with a win, but kind of tricky going on the road. Also, their third game in less than a week. So I'm not that confident Fiorentina wins this game. If I were to do something in this game, I would look at betting the over 2.5. That's the way to go in this game. Otherwise, stay away. I'm personally staying away from this game. But if you want to do something, go for the over 2.5 in this game. Next up, Genoa hosting AS Roma. Genoa wins at 3.9. Roma wins at 2.12. Line for total goal set at 2.5. Now, this is actually one of my favorite midweek bets. Go for a Roma win. More than 2-1. That's great value. Roma, not a great start to the season, but they've kind of been finding their form in the last few games. Genoa, they're lucky to have a win in this season. They're not a very good team. I would expect Roma to come away with a win. Like I said, one of my favorite bets. Go for Roma at 2.12. Great value. All right, that wraps up Serie A. Let's get to La Liga. First game on the schedule, Sevilla hosting Almeria. Sevilla wins at 1.67. Almeria wins at 5.3. Line for total goals set at 2.5. Now, on paper, Sevilla should be the better team, but only one win so far during the season. That win came against Las Palmas. Not a very good team. Almeria, they haven't won yet, sit at the bottom. Sevilla, very close to the bottom. Don't like either of these teams. Can't have any confidence in any of these teams winning. Maybe a draw and a possible outcome, but I don't like betting the draw. So I would stay away from this game. Not a bet for me in this game. All right, next up, Mallorca hosting Barcelona. Mallorca wins at 7.5. Barcelona wins at 1.47. Line for the total goal set at 2.5. Barcelona, very great form at the moment. Winners of 5 straight, 6 straight if you include the Champions League game. So they should have no problem putting aside Mallorca. Mallorca, very, very lucky to have at least one win under their belt. That win came against Celta. Now, I don't expect Mallorca to get anything from this game, even if they're playing at home. This should be an easy Barcelona win, but not great value in Barcelona winning at 1.47. Also not confident the line goes, the total goes over 2.5. So I'm staying away from this game, but I expect Barcelona to come away with a win. All right, next up, Villarreal hosting Girona. Villarreal wins at 2.25. Girona wins at 3.25. Line for the total goal set at 2.5. But if you look at the fact that the line is 1.58 for the over 2.5, they expect it to go easily over the 2.5 goals. Now, Girona surprisingly start in a good start to the season. They sit second, also winners of 5 straight. Villarreal, one win in the last 4 games, but that win did come at home and against Almeria. Now they play at home again. So I actually Girona looks like the better team so far, but they can't keep this up. I expect them to drop points in this game. I'm gonna back Villarreal in this game. I think everybody will be backing Girona. I'm going the other way. I'm backing Villarreal in this game. Great value at 2.25. Don't have them as one of my best bets, but it's a bet I really like. Go for Villarreal in this game. All right, next up, Athletic Bilbao hosting Getafe. Athletic Bilbao wins at 1.66. Getafe wins at 6.5. Line for the total goal set at 2.5. Bilbao lost their first game of the season against Real Madrid. After that, They did not lose. Getafe, not a very great start to the season, but they did score 6 goals in the last 2 matches. So it seems like they have found an answer in their attack. Athletic Bilbao, they're coming off a clean sheet win against Alaves. Now they come back home. I expect them to win this game. They're the better team, but I would look to play both teams to score at 2.32. Great value, so hammer that one. All right, next up, Real Madrid hosting Las Palmas. Real Madrid wins at 1.24. Las Palmas wins at 13. Line for total goal set at 3.5. Now, I'm going to go quick over this game. Real Madrid should win, but not great value in betting Real Madrid at 1.24. They're coming off a loss against Atletico. They would want to recorrect things at home. Las Palmas really has trouble scoring. They did win their first game at the weekend, but that trend won't continue against Real Madrid. Real Madrid should win this game easily, but like I said, not great value, so I'm staying away from this game. All right, next up, Cadiz hosting Rayo Vallecano. Cadiz wins at 2.55. Rayo wins at 3. Line for the total goal set at 2.5. Now, both teams only 1 win in their last 5 games. Not very good form at the moment. Not very high scoring teams. So I would look to play the under 2.5 goals in this game. I would stay away from both teams to score, like I said, not very high scoring teams. But the under 2.5, not great value at 1.62. So me personally, I'm staying away from this game. But if you really want to do something, go for the under 2.5 goals in this game. Next up, Valencia hosting Real Sociedad. Valencia wins at 2.65. Real Sociedad wins at 2.95. Line for the total goal set at 2.5. Not a lot to separate these two teams. Only 1 point in the standings. Real Sociedad, they had trouble scoring at the start of the season, but they were defending better than they did in the last games. They shipped 3 goals against Granada, also shipped 3 goals in their last game against Getafe. So it looks like they're very vulnerable at the back. Valencia playing at home, I expect them to score a goal. So I would go for both teams to score. Actually, one of my favorite bets for the midweek games. Go for Valencia, Real Sociedad, both teams to score. All right, next up, Granada hosting Real Betis. Granada wins at 3.10. Real Betis wins at 2.35. Line for the total goal set at 2.5. Both teams only 1 win in the last 4 games. Granada actually losers of 3 straight. Their only win in the last 4 games came against Mallorca, which is a really bad team. Real Betis is the better team. Go for Real Betis to win this game at 2.35. But I also like this line to go over 2.5 goals. So Betis to win and over 2.5. Actually, also one of my favorite bets for these midweek games. All right, next up, Celta hosting Alaves. Celta wins at 1.71. Alaves wins at 6. Line for the total goal set at 2.5. I don't have a bet for this game. It's tough to separate these two teams, although the line would tell you Celta should win easily. I don't agree with that. Alaves, losers of 3 straight on the road. Celta, losers of 3 straight at home. So for me, not a lot to separate these two teams. I'm staying away from this game, although I'm leaning a little bit towards Celta, but I don't agree with the line here. All right, next up, Osasuna hosting Atletico Madrid. Osasuna wins at 3.7. Atletico Madrid wins at 2.12. Line for the total goal set at 2.5. Atletico Madrid coming off a big win against Real Madrid at the weekend. So this kind of feels like a letdown spot for them, but they're the better team. They should win this game. So I would go for Atletico Madrid to win this game at 2.12. Osasuna only 1 win in their last 5 matches, and it looks like they don't have a very deep squad. So good to back Atletico Madrid to win this game at 2.12. Like I said, good value. Now that wraps up the midweek games. We will be back Friday to talk about the weekend matchups. Thank you everybody for joining in. Have a great week.